The salmon of knowledge is the most famous fish, not just in terms of Irish mythology, but in Irish history. The Irish for the salmon of knowledge is an Bradán, feasa. An Bradán, feasa. This magical fish, and the Irish for fish, by the way, is Iasc. Iasc. This magical fish was said by the Druids of old Celtic Ireland to swim in a dark, deep pond close to the river Boyne. The Irish for pond is Linn. Linn. And the Irish for the river Boyne is an Bhóinn. An Bhóinn. The Druids said that this fish had special magical powers, and the first man to catch and eat this fish would become the wisest man that ever was and the wisest man that ever would be. The Druids went on to write about how this fish acquired its special status. They said that it got its special powers because it feasted on the nuts of the overhanging hazel trees. The Irish for nuts is Cnónna. Cnónna. And hazel tree is Crann Coill. Crann Coill. You see, the hazel tree has a special mythical status in Irish history, and it's often referred to as the Tree of Knowledge. Any story about the salmon of knowledge must be framed around one man, and that man is Fionn Mac Cumhaill. Let's look at the name Fionn Mac Cumhaill. So Fionn means blonde or fair-haired one. Mac is son of, and Cumhaill was Fionn's father. So the name literally translates into the fair-haired son of Cumhaill. Fionn's father, Cumhaill, was a brave and heroic leader of the Fianna. The Irish for leader is Ceannaire. Ceannaire. And the Fianna were a group of soldiers whose main purpose was to protect the king. The Irish for king is Rí. Rí. Chosain siad an Rí. They protected or guarded the king. Chosain siad an Rí. Before Fionn was born, Cumhaill was killed in a battle by an enemy. The Irish for battle is Ca. Ca. And Namhaid is enemy. Namhaid. For Fionn's own safety, it was imperative that he move around so that he wouldn't suffer the same fate as his father. Bhog sé Timpeall na Tíre. He moved around the country. Bhog sé Timpeall na Tíre. As Fionn grew, it was clear that he was a very athletic boy and quite talented at sports. The Irish for athletic is Lúfar. Lúfar. Fionn was also a very curious and inquisitive boy. The Irish for curious is Fiosrach. Fiosrach. And he really loved hearing stories about his father's adventures in the Fianna in years gone by. He was fascinated by the stories of war, bravery and heroism. The Irish for stories is Scéalta. Scéalta. And Fionn eventually decided that he must follow his birthright and lead the Fianna someday. Bhí sé in ndán. It was his destiny. Bhí sé in ndán. Fionn was discussing this with his uncle one day, and his uncle, while supportive, strongly advised Fionn that he must become more wise and more rounded if he was to have any chance of leading the Fianna. The Irish for wise is Críne. Críne. Tá bailach fada le dul fós. There's a long way to go yet, he said. Tá bailach fada le dul fós. Fionn's uncle advised him to seek the help of a well-known poet called Finnegas. Finnegas lived in a fort close to the river Boyne and was renowned as a wise and scholarly man. Fear anna chríne a bhí ann. He was a very wise man. Fear anna chríne a bhí ann. Finnegas agreed to help Fionn in return for Fionn doing work and chores around his fort. Fionn would learn a lot from Finnegas about poetry and about the legends of the past. He would receive a good education. Oideachas ma, a good education. Oideachas ma. Fionn would often notice that Finnegas would be fishing in a dark, deep pool close to the river Boyne. One day Fionn asked, "Why do you fish here instead of the richer waters of the Boyne?" The Irish for fishing is ag Iasc, ag Iasc. Finnegas went on to explain to Fionn about the salmon of knowledge and how the first man to eat this salmon would have all the knowledge of the world. As Finnegas was explaining this, explaining, he felt a pull or a tug on his fishing net. Tarring is the Irish for pull or tug, tarring. When he pulled the fish to shore, he was utterly amazed by what he saw. The most beautiful, bright and speckled fish he had ever seen, with every colour of the rainbow emanating from it. Bhí untas agus bhí sé bís. He was surprised and extremely excited. Bhí untas agus bhí sé bís. Finnegas knew immediately that he had finally caught the salmon of knowledge. He ordered Fionn to prepare a spit, that is a roast fire, in order to cook this special salmon. The Irish for a spit is bjor. But he warned Fionn as well that he must not taste a single piece of the fish, as only one person could benefit from it. Ag tuairt rogha dó gave him a warning. Ag tuairt rogha dó. Finnegas went off to fetch some firewood, but when he came back he noticed a change in Fionn. Athrú is the Irish for change, Athrú. Fionn's skin and eyes were shining with a beautiful bright glow. Ag lunrú is the Irish for shining, ag lunrú. Shocked and puzzled, Finnegas asked Fionn, "Did you taste any of this salmon?" Fionn replied, "No, he didn't. All he did was he put his thumb on the salmon in order to try and burst a growing blister. And by doing so, he burnt his thumb. He then put his thumb to his mouth in order to try and ease the pain." The Irish for thumb is ordóg. Immediately, Finnegas's heart sank. Hit a chree. His heart sank. Hit a chree. Because he knew there and then that Fionn was the one who would benefit from the salmon of knowledge and not Finnegas. Finnegas ordered Fionn to finish the whole salmon. Dordig sé dó, he ordered him. Dordig sé dó. Fionn did just that, and by doing so he acquired the knowledge of the world. Soon after he left Finnegas's fort because there was no more he could teach him. Fionn would go on to lead the fianna and follow in his father's footsteps. He would become an inspirational leader, a brave warrior, and a wise poet. And whenever he needed the answer to a problem or a question, all he had to do was put his thumb in his mouth and the answers would come flowing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and I'll be back very soon. Slán go fóill.